Welcome back to segment 2 of this week's lesson on disability and employment. This section, we're going to talk about the barriers that exist. And the barriers there are many out there. The two that I'm going to focus on, one is barriers from the employer standpoint, and then I'd also like to talk about some of the barriers that exist for the potential employee and his or her family. Before we go further, I'd like you to hear Sheila's perspectives on employment myths and misconceptions. She has many years' experience as a person with a disability, as well as teaching a college course on career development.
So there are a lot of misconceptions, myths and stereotypes. They're going to lose a lot of time from work. As a matter of fact, some so-called able-bodied employees really get a little miffed with a person with a disability because they would say, oh, if I were you, I would stay at home. I wouldn't come out here on a day like this. I would use my disability. I would just stay at home. I wouldn't even do it. But the person with the disability is trying so hard for acceptance, and also so hard that they're trying to show, their strengths and that they are accountable. They're not gonna miss many days from work if they do. If they have to miss, it's going to be for something important. They're not gonna fake a day to get it off. So I think for employers, it's a plus. Because now we're talking about diversity, and we're talking about universal design. We're talking about a lot of things that's making it a norm. And if you hire a person with a disability, please know that these misconceptions and myths, they're not putting your company or your program into jeopardy. It might be even cheaper. There's some government agencies that will help with modifications for hiring someone with a disability. And believe me, it's nowhere expensive that where you think it would be. And it's good for the employer to know that, good for the employer to expect the same amount of work and the same caliber of work that they're expecting from the person with the disability. The person with the disability is not going to give you less quality in work. As a matter of fact, they try harder to make sure that their work stands out. So I don't think employers should not be skeptical about hiring someone. And same thing with the person with that disability. When you go in there, you take your A game.
There's also, as we talk about employers as their issues, talk about employees also. Because, and this may sound a little funny but think about it if you would. Availability of role models. If you're a child growing up, what do? You look at these adults and you say, oh, I could be like that. I could be an actor. I could be a nurse. I could be a doctor. I could be whatever it might be. We see these people because we see some similarities between us. If I think of, for example, the number of professors that I know, even within my own university, who have visible disabilities, it would be hard for a student with a disability here to look at and say, oh, I want to be a professor because I could do that. Even though this person is, whatever it might be, I could be like that. There's our problems with role models because we don't oftentimes see people with disabilities in leadership positions, or certainly not to the extent that they exist. And here's another one that, again, many people don't think about, and this is probably one of the biggest barriers from an individual standpoint, and what we call a financial disincentive. I've talked to you about my brother, I've talked to you about my stepson, and something that's important, particularly for my brother, was the ability to have Medicaid, to have Social Security, right? Now, there's a catch to that, though, because if he gets a job, and if he earns over a set amount of money, those things are cut. Now, what happens? Where's his health care? Where's his safety net, if you would? So it's a concern. And as we now wrap this segment up, I just want to summarize the idea that barriers exist on a lot of levels. It's not just the employer's fault, it's not just the potential employee's fault, but there's this vast interaction of things that go on that create significant barriers to people being employed and having a job that helps support them. With that, I'll end this section, and we'll hit our next section, and I want to talk briefly about legislation, the idea that we can't discriminate in employment against people who have disabilities.